My AI skeptic friends are all nuts. That's the name of the article that we're going to be looking at today. This article went pretty nuclear on Hackernews recently, as it has some radioactive takes on the future of programming, both in the workplace and outside the workplace. So I'm going to be reading through it and just commenting on anything I find interesting. It'll be interesting to look back on this video in the future and see, what turned out to be true, what turned out not to be true. So tech execs are mandating LLM adoption. That's a bad strategy, but I get where they're coming from. Some of the smartest people I know share a bone deep belief that AI is a fad, the next iteration of NFT mania. I've been reluctant to push back on them because, well, they're smarter than me, but their arguments are unserious or worth confronting. Extraordinarily talented people are doing work that LLMs already do better out of spite. All progress on LLMs could halt today, and LLMs would remain the second most important thing to happen over the course of my career. I've been shipping software since the mid-90s, started off in a box to shrink wrap C code, survived an ill-advised Island REST C++ phase, lots of Ruby and Python tooling, some kernel work. Basically, he's a senior engineer. So I guess the first take is level setting. First, we need to get on the same page. If you're trying and failing to use LLM code for 6 months for an LLM for code 6 months ago, you're not doing what most serious LLM system coders are doing. People coding with LLMs today use agents. Agents get to poke around your code base on their own. They author files directly. They run tools, compile code, run tests, and iterate on tests. They also just pull in arbitrary code, run standard Unix tools, run existing tooling, and make arbitrary tool calls that you set up through the model context protocol. If you're making a request on a ChatGPT page and then pasting the resulting broken code into your editor, you're not doing what AI boosters are doing. No wonder you're talking past each other. This point is definitely true. I myself no longer really use AI utilities in the browser, for example, like the Gemini chat window or the GPT chat window. I think it's just like so much worse than using any kind of agentic programming platform. Like all these AIs, like it's easy to write off a lot of AIs, but a lot of the time it is just like you're prompting it wrong, like you're holding it wrong from the original iPhone type thing. If you're not using like an actual IDE that's supposed to be used for coding, then the context being passed to your LLM is just not going to be appropriate for it to be generating like the correct kind of responses. So this point is definitely true. A lot of people write off AI based off some wonky response they get based off an empty context in a single question, when they could be using like Copilot agent mode that has like full knowledge of their code base, or something like Cursor with different rules you specify to tell it how to generate code. Not too much of a nuclear take, but I guess it's important to talk about this because of some arguments against LLM assisted programming. So the positive case: LLMs can write a large fraction of all tedious code you'll ever need to write, and most code on most projects is tedious. LLMs drastically reduce the number of things you'll ever need to Google, look things up themselves. Most importantly, they never get tired. They're immune to inertia. Think of anything you wanted to build but didn't. You tried to home in on some first steps. You've been in a limerent phase of a new programming language. You started writing, but you weren't. You'd have started writing, but you weren't. So you put it off for a day, year, or your whole career. I can feel my blood pressure rising thinking about all the bookkeeping and Googling and dependency drama of a new project. An LLM can be instructed to just figure that shit out. Often it'll drop you precisely at the golden moment where things almost work, and development means tweaking code and immediately seeing things work better. That don't mean hit is why code. The design side, sometimes gnarly stuff needs doing, but you don't want to do it, so you refactor unit test. Soothing yourself with the lie that you're doing real work, but LM can be told to refactor unit test. An agent can occupy itself for hours posting away with your test in the VM and come back later with PR. If you listen to me, you'll know that. You'll feel worse yak shaving. You'll end up doing real work. This is definitely true as well. So we're still in the early phases of AI deployment, so we're always trying to find things that we can do that maybe an LLM can't do. Like at least my first reaction to LLM written code is like, okay, how can I modify this? Whereas like someone like this guy who seems to be some kind of LLM maximalist would probably not even try to do things themselves, and just like prompt the model to do it. Like you might, like here's an example case. If you go to GPT and ask it to generate some Python code today, you'll probably get some untyped, over-commented, very evidently like slob code. Then you might then manually go and start tweaking it. Whereas with a bit more experience, you'll realize that you could have just one-shotted it by telling it, you don't need as much comments, use modern Python typing, and please actually try to be concise and not verbose. And just like that, you get like a much better output. And even if the output is not what you want, I guess just put please fix into the cursor chat window and see what happens. The same thing with refactoring. Like, refactoring can often feel daunting, but there's an argument to be made that, just ask the model to do the refactoring. If it doesn't do it to your tastes, impact the prompt, or change the prompt a bit, and try again. And I guess then as a last resort, you can start yak shaving. But I guess for getting actual things done, I know a lot of times you can't really argue for human-made changes if you can do them extremely fast with some model, which is, I guess this is why these things are being pushed in corporate. Next argument. But you have no idea what the code is. Are you a vibe coding YouTuber? Can you not read code? If so, astute point. Otherwise, what's wrong with you? You've always been responsible for watching merge into main. You were 5 years ago, you are tomorrow, whether or not you use an LLM. If you end up building with an LLM, something that people will depend on, read the code. In fact, you'll probably do more than that. You'll spend 5 to 10 minutes knocking it back into your own style. LLMs are showing signs of adapting to a local idiom, but we're not there yet. People complain about LLM generated code being probabilistic. No, it isn't. It's not yak output, it's noble. The LLM might be stochastic, but the LLM doesn't matter. What matters is whether you can make sense of the result, and whether your guardrails hold. Reading other people's code is part of the job. If you can't metabolize the boring and repetitive code an LLM generates, skill issue. How are you handling the chaos? Human developers turn out on a deadline. For the last month or so, Gemini 2.5 has been my go-to. Almost nothing it spits out from me merges without edits. I'm sure there's a skill in getting state-of-the-art models to one-shot features plus merges, but I don't care. I like moving code around and chuckling to myself while I delete the stupid comments. I have to read the code line by line anyways. I'm 50-50 on this because in my experience, it's kind of tricky to fully understand LLM written code. What a lot of people end up getting stuck in is like the vibe coding tar pit, where they prompt an LLM into doing something, it doesn't work, and it's so daunting to try and understand that code, they keep on like reprompting it to try and fix that, to the point where it would almost be better to take it more from a like traditional first principles perspective and write that code yourself. I have seen that play out sometimes. At the same time, I guess if you ask these LLMs to generate a lot of tests so you can actually quantify what's wrong with the program instead of going based off some like vague understanding, this problem becomes, I guess, less of an issue. But I don't know. I think there's an extent to which if the author of the code, you won't ever fully understand it, which can be problematic down the road, which kind of limits the scope of things you might want to ask a model to do. But yeah, this is a bit of a tricky one. It's kind of hard to fully understand LLM written code, but I guess you can get there. Hallucination. Next point. Hallucination matters to you. Your programming language has let you down. Agents lint, they compile and run tests. If their LLM invents a new function signature, the agent sees the error. They feed it back into the LLM, which says, alright, I totally made that up, and it tries again. You only know this is happening if you watch the chain of thought log your agent generates. Don't. This is why I like Zed's agent mode. It begs you to tap away and let it work. Pings your desktop with a notification when it's done. I'm sure there's still environments where hallucination matters, but hallucination is the first thing developers bring up when someone suggests using LLMs, despite it being more or less a solved problem. Oh, this is definitely true. Probably try use a typed language. Try to tighten the loop that your LLM uses as much as possible. Like your LLM should have access to as much context as possible to make the best decisions. It can't otherwise, similar to someone using like the GPT webpage to code a project, you're not getting as much out of LLMs as like the vibe coding maximalist who has like 10 MCP servers, an agentic, code editing agent, an MCP REPL and all this sorts of crazy stuff. But yeah, hallucination is definitely less of a problem if you have like a tight loop between your agent and your actual coding environment. At the same time, if you don't have that, yeah, hallucination is going to be like a major problem, and if your code isn't testable. But I know these are issues that kind of existed before LLMs. Like, if you have code that's hallucinated and you don't catch that code because maybe the execution path wasn't reached, like that would be a problem before LLMs. It just means you have like severely insufficient testing. There are a lot of things like this where we think it's a problem with LLMs, but I know really it's a problem that existed already that we realize the severity of because of how LLMs work. And yeah, how they hallucinate. But yeah, there are some solutions for this. Okay, next point. The code is terrible, like that of a junior developer. Does an intern cost $20 a month? Because that's what Cursor.ai costs. Part of being a senior engineer is making less able coders productive, be they flashy or algebraic. Using agents well is both a skill and an engineering project all of its own. Prompts, indices, and especially tooling. LLMs only produce bad code if you let them. Maybe the current confusion is about who's doing all the work. Today, LLMs do a lot of typing, Googling test cases, and edit, compile, test, debug cycles. But even the most Claude-poisoned series developers in the world still own curation, judgment, guidance, and direction. Let's stop kidding ourselves about how good human-first codes usually are. Yeah, it's pretty nuclear. Yeah. This is also pretty nuclear. If you're like a fresh grad or an undergrad in computer science, yeah, you might be cooked. You might be cooked. This point here is also kind of nuclear. Like, at a certain point, you have to realize that maybe you're not as good as that good of a coder, and just have to program with AI as a companion instead of seeing it as like, I don't know, some kind of slop production engine. A lot of the reason why slop is produced is because your prompt wasn't good enough. Like, I was vibe coding a card game the other day. Gemini gave me like 400 lines of CSS. All I had to do was ask it like, please be concise and don't do that, and I got like a more reasonable project at the end of it. You kind of have to hold the tool well, and yeah, use your own curation, judgment, guidance, and direction when you're using these kind of tools. Next point, but it's bad at Rust. It's hard to get a good tool chain for brainfuck 2. Life's tough in the aluminium sliding business. Not sure what he's getting out there. A lot of LLM skepticism probably isn't really about LLMs, it's projection. People say LLMs can't code. What they really mean is LLMs can't write Rust. Fair enough. But people select languages in part based on how well LLMs work with them, so Rust people should get on that. I mostly work in Go. I'm confident the designers of the Go programming language didn't set out to produce the most LLM legible language in the industry. They succeeded nonetheless. Go has just enough type safety, an extensive standard library, and a culture that prizes often repetitive idiom. LLMs kick ass at generating it. All this to say, I write Rust, I like it fine. If LLMs and Rust aren't working for you, I feel you, but if that's your whole thing, we're not having the same argument. Yeah, I mean, I haven't really done anything that's so esoteric that LLMs couldn't tackle it. Like, most of the code I write could probably be done by LLMs with enough context, if I'm being honest. But I guess this point is just like a smaller point of the fact that if something's not in the LLM trading data, it's not going to perform well with it. Me personally, I haven't experienced much of that, but in the discussion of this thread, which I'll link, there was probably quite a lot of discussion on this type of thing. Yeah, then onto the most nuclear takes, which I'll probably end with. But the craft. Do you like Japanese woodworking? All hand tools and sashimono joinery? Me too. Do it on your own time. I have a basic wood shop in my basement. I could get a lot of satisfaction from building a table, and if that table is a workbench or a grill table, sure, I'll build it. But if I need a table for people to sit at in my office, I'll buy a table. Professional software developers are in the business of solving practical problems for people with code. We're not, in our day jobs, artisans. Steve Jobs is wrong. We don't need to carve the unseen feet of the sculpture. Nobody cares if the logic board traces are pleasantly routed. If anything we build endures, it won't be because the code base was beautiful. Besides, that's not really what happens. If you're taking time carefully going through golfing functions down into graceful, fluent, minimal functional expressions, alarm bell should ring. You're act shaving. The real work has depleted your focus. You're not building, you're self-soothing. Which, wait for it, is something LLMs are good for. They devour schlep and clear a path to the important stuff, where your judgment and values really matter. Yeah, this is a pretty nuclear take, because most people who get far in programming do so because they actually like programming. So it's kind of weird when you spend a lot of time doing something and then suddenly all the code golfing and craft that you might have had, the love for all that you might have had, makes no difference or has no impact, and can actually be detrimental to shipping fast, I'll say, which is valued by at least the industry and possibly even you if you want to actually make a product. I say shipping fast and not shipping reliable software, because I don't think I've had a single AI written project that has been reliable yet. At the same time, I haven't made much, so maybe I just need to do more. Because I haven't followed everything in this article fully, and yeah, definitely doing things the crafty way will probably produce a more rock solid project. But as this article said, maybe to produce rock solid software with LLM assisted coding, we just need to get the right MCP, get the right context, and use the right tools. But yeah, the value of the craft definitely comes into question when so much can be done without it. I think recently there was another thread where what's the company? Cloudflare made like an auth0 integration, almost entirely using Claude code. Granted, every line of code was apparently read by like a senior engineer, but where is the craft there? Like, you go into a computer science degree because you like to code, but it seems like the future of the job will more be like just reviewing LLM code and like getting things done with computers as opposed to actually coding, which is like, you could take that as depressing, or I don't really know what to make of it, but it seems like that's what the future will be. And but the mediocrity. This is kind of a hash of like, we overrate human first cuts, but I guess this is just saying like, code just needs to be good enough. Which I guess, yeah, that's kind of true. It'll never be AGI. I don't care. Smart practitioners get wound up by the AI/VC hype cycle. I can't blame them, but it's not an argument. Things either work or they don't, no matter what Jensen Huang has to say about it. Yeah, this is kind of true. A lot of smart people will be like, AI doesn't like, truly understand, which can be a problem. For example, it can produce things that are ever so slightly wrong, and it can be really hard to figure that out if you don't have the correct testing, or if you're trying to read the code, and make sense of it since you didn't write it. At the same time, as this article says, you should have unit tests. Everything should be tested. Everything should be in the model context. There are tools to reduce like the errors and the impact of whatever true understanding is when using LLM-assisted programming agents. The fact that it doesn't like truly understand and it's not AGI may not actually matter that much. Some people like love to bring up, as you'll see in any kind of AI thread. The rest of the article is not too interested, but yeah, that's my AI skeptic friends are all nuts. Let me know your thoughts on this video in the comments. Until next time.